You gotta raise the exposure in this video, Paul. So what exactly is the perfect age to go out there and buy your first home? You know, the average person in America does it at age 36, and that kind of sounds appropriate, but in reality, I don't actually agree with that. Now, as a person like me, I bought my first home at the age of 24. I was pretty young, and I actually stayed with that home for about almost 2 years almost or so, and then I ended up selling it. And the whole goal for this video is to make sure that when you actually go ahead and you buy a home, you do it the right way so you don't end up selling beforehand or feeling like you regret it or you went in too early, or maybe you got into the wrong home and you basically overpay for it. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to break everything down and make sure you fully comprehend exactly at what age should you actually be looking to buy a home. And as always, like this video on top, I also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. Now, the very first thing is we want to change this question from what age should I buy a home to when should I buy a home? And the answer is, it's not an age thing, it's more of a needs thing. Whenever somebody tells you that, you know, buying a home is the American dream, you need one, it is an amazing investment, it's going to grow over time, it's going to be the number one investment you ever make in your life. It all sounds cool, and some of it is actually true, but for the most part, the people that are trying to sell you on this whole thing, that the earlier you get into it, the better it is, no matter what situation it actually is, well, those are usually like the banks trying to lend you money or the real estate agents trying to sell you, because they make money when you sell, they make money when you buy. They don't really care, okay? The whole transaction is the entire point, okay? So the whole goal is, guys, you cannot look at buying a home as some type of milestone in your life or as a goal or as a American dream thing. No, a home is just another thing you buy when you actually need one. So the answer is, when do you buy a home? When you need one. That is my that's my 4-word answer to this question. When you need one is when you buy a home. And when do you need one? When you're ready to set roots somewhere. You're willing to stay there for more than 5 years or so. You're ready to start a family. You know this is actually where you want to stay at, okay? When the home you actually are buying is the one you can actually afford to actually live in and pay it off as fast as possible, that's when you're actually ready. My big mistake was I thought that, hey, I'm ready to set roots, I'm ready to start a family, but I did not have a family in sight. I was still pretty young, and I was unsure if I was actually going to stay there for more than 5 years, so I ended up selling this home and buying a home way too early. What I should have done was just basically keep renting for a lot longer. So one big thing you can use is basically a rent versus buy calculator. So for me, I can look at one and say, hey, in 5 years, it's going to be more expensive to rent than it is to actually buy a property. So it makes sense to buy a property. Well, I would wait until year 3 or year 4 to decide to buy a property, because what's the rush for? And something does change. Remember, a house is cool, but you cannot move and bring the house with you. You have to sell that home, do a whole bunch of things. Things break, things go wrong. A home is a big, massive responsibility. Now, number 2, when you do need a home, how do you go about actually buying this home? What should be the math, all right, behind it? Well, the only time most people actually end up selling a home or paying off their mortgage is when they actually sell the home. That's when their mortgage is actually paid. Although, though, almost more than a third of homes in America are actually owned without a mortgage, which, by the way, is not that great compared to, for example, the whole globe, because we're the third last in the world, so we're not doing that great either. But overall, that's the idea. You know, the whole goal behind buying a home is to own a home, not just to get in the door and pay a mortgage until you're 30 something thousand years later. Okay, that's not what you actually want. The whole goal is to buy a home, pay it off, and own it, and to say, I actually own this home and I don't have to pay a mortgage anymore. All right, that's massive. So buying a home, you got to make sure you go in the right way, and that's the whole thing. So make sure, my rule is, when I buy a home, I want to buy a home on a 15-year mortgage where I'm putting down 10 to 20% as a down payment. And on top of that, it's no more than a third of my monthly income net on the expenses of this home, including the mortgage, including the insurance, the maintenance, and everything else associated with the home, because I want to make sure that, hey, if I make $1,000 a month and the cost of owning this home is only $300 and $33, I still have a whole bunch of more room to be able to invest and do everything else I actually need to do with my life. And not my whole focus is just on paying off this home, right? I know people that they've been paying off a home, they still have 13 years left on this mortgage, and they're still paying like crazy. And it's such a big portion of their income that if they lose their job, they're going to be basically completely screwed. And that's not really what you want whatsoever. Trust me when I say that. You want to buy a home you can afford to pay off as fast as possible. That's why I say 15-year mortgage, only a third, put down 10-20%, which is great. But that allows you to have more money left over to pay that home off even faster by making extra payments and be done in 8 to 10 years. And imagine that, 8 to 10 years, you don't have to worry about paying rent. Don't have to worry about paying a mortgage, nothing, because you actually own that property. That's massive, that's big. For most people, they get stuck on the place of like, hey, in my area, I can't find a home that cheap. Well, look outside of your area. That's also a possibility, right? And if in your area, it doesn't make sense to buy a home, well, don't buy a home, right? Just wait until it does make sense. Now, there are some things you actually want to ignore that most people don't talk about. You want to ignore interest rates. You want to ignore the housing markets. You want to ignore people telling you when to buy, when not to buy. You want to ignore, for example, trying to time the market, because in reality, buying a home is a personal financial choice, not a big picture choice. And what I mean is, when the math makes sense, when you actually need a home, you're not going to wait 10 years until the market crashes to buy it. No, you buy it then, because even though the interest rates aren't that great, they still fit your budget and you can actually afford to own the home. And if things do change around, you can always refinance, get a better market interest rate, and then boom, even save more money and pay it off even faster, right? So that's also a part of the math behind it. But in conclusion, if you're 18 years old, and you're 100% sure you actually want to live somewhere, you're about to get married, all this other stuff, ready to start a family, ready to set roots, and that's great stuff. You know, age is not the whole like figure here. What is a needs factor. But for me, being the age I am right now, not getting ready to start a family just yet, kind of just being just fine right now and just like figuring things out in a way, the answer is it doesn't make sense to go ahead and buy a home. So buying a home is a needs thing. It's not about some goal or accomplishment. No, you buy a home when you need one, because a home is a stability item, right? It's like an asset that grants you stability, because once it's paid off, your cost of living goes down drastically and you're able to enjoy life a lot more. But guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified, and comment down below exactly at what age did you actually want to buy a home. For me, it was age 25. I did it at 24. And by 26, I basically sold the home. All right. So you might think of an idea that sounds great, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. Okay. So you want to make sure when you buy a home, you need a home. And when you buy it with the mindset of trying to pay it off as fast as possible. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. Up here's another video. Over here's my face. As always, Long Term Team officially out.